done. So the issue was a couple issues. One is when we submitted our budget, which we did submit it, the problem is we didn't submit it in the format they wanted it in. That's on us. So we also asked Paul to look at the initial budget that we submitted right after we stood the board up, because we submitted that budget in the same format that we did this one. So we may have to go back and resubmit that original budget that the two municipalities and the county voted on.
When you get a chance, would you peruse that a little bit?
Yeah.
Apparently we're tied into a 5-year deal with them.
What was that page? Was that page 4?
Yeah, sign the terms, conditions.
Terms and conditions. It says that they can increase it and
Under, forward price adjustments.
Oh, this kind of
5-year contract with annual price adjustment to their discretion.
October 25th is
I was going to look at the
when
minutes and see when we approved that.
Going to sign.
apparently didn't probably read it as well as we should have, I'm thinking. Now you're cold, huh?
Pretty much. I still have coffee with the little wrong. But not near as bad as I was last meeting. That's worse. I thought it was
It's fine. It's better than that.
to pass along to my husband, so just gotta hope I don't catch it back.
No give back.
Thomas has been good. He hasn't caught it, but
He was probably immune to it, he gave it to both of you.
I'm sure. I get home from school.
Yeah, that's where he goes to the grade school, comes to our house. There's lunch lady has to hug every kid.
Of course she does. Last when my kids went to children's center, we had everything under the sun at our house.
Builds their immune system up.
I haven't been not back and forth and keep myself. Joe Cool.
One different here. Paul gives you, for you, the reports from our audit at the landfill.
For this question.
Well, we're supposed to give it to the governing bodies. Anybody's supposed
He might have. No.
to do a couple flat main things. Like we need another person in the office, so whoever writes the bill doesn't take, wherever it takes money to, like, it ain't gonna happen.
I don't know, it's gonna cost you more money.
Yeah. And then probably one of our account members. We did good budget adjustment.
He's on his way here.
How'd you guys deal with the power outage last Friday?
Huh.
I was in the middle school gym watching wrestling and
They said that was a disaster.
it went just
Everybody turned their flashlights on
Yeah.
their phones, and that's how they all
I didn't make it
evacuated
to
the
the dome. I guess the
gym.
dome was kind of eerie.
Mhm.
It's got pitch dark.
They don't have those exit signs with the auto lights that come up.
Well, yeah, but they had to all get down off the bleachers and try and gather all their stuff, and which surprises me, the school doesn't have backup
That's
generators.
kind of what we thought.
And then they don't dismiss the kids.
Caged up,
So when Marge came home, she brought Aaron and Jason, 2 girls home. Well, then we was taking them back to town, and down there where the Oil Creek and Plum Creek Road, that little rock house just up Oil Creek a bit, we're coming down, and man, these trees are like, whew, this big pine comes up, bounced off the car, come in, drop the kids off, went right back home. Trees come down right, and they had to have hit the power line underneath it, but they didn't bring the power line down, because the power company's out there. The road was about this deep with pine needles, but the big branches, they rode off the side.
We were without power up here from 12:30. Oh geez, 2 hours up here with no power. And then once it came up, we couldn't do anything because all of our programs were out, the internet was still out.
nothing got
It
screwed up,
was
you
so
know.
cold, we don't think so, but
Don't you guys have a backup generator?
we don't. Sheriff does.
Gilbert's working on one.
Yeah, we actually just
Well,
signed.
the last time I was here, you guys were talking about a generator.
That's true, but we hope nothing got fried. We're slowly checking.
We just signed a voucher last month at the landfill to get a backup generator put out there. Because when it goes down, I mean, it shuts everything. Our scales don't work, nothing works. And we had people that scaled in that haven't scaled out yet, so we had to shot them twice and went for it. So, a backup generator. So that's good.
Yeah, how you doing?
Do you have any updates on?
I do.
On what's going on with you?
So, had a conversation with Paul Stilley yesterday afternoon. I didn't, but Derek Thompson did. Waiting on him to finish his part of it. We should be completely done. So, the issue was, a couple issues. One is, when we submitted our budget, which we did submit it, the problem is we didn't submit it in the format they wanted it in. That's on us. So we also asked Paul to look at the initial budget that we submitted right after we stood the board up, because we submitted that budget in the same format that we did this one. So we may have to go back and resubmit that original budget that the 2 municipalities and the county voted on. So, but he's checking into that now. So we are literally waiting on Paul at this point to finish his part of it up, and then we should be done.
Hopefully by the end of the month, probably, huh?
I think, yeah, probably so.
Okay.
First part of February. I think he's mostly finished, but I think we need to look at that original one, because I don't want to find out 2 years from now that, oh, you didn't do the original one right either, which I know we probably didn't. I don't know if they accepted it that way and didn't this time, or if we need to resubmit that from so it'd be the 23-24 budget. So that'd be the only snag.
Yeah, if you go online, they give you the form they want you to use. And it's
Yeah,
actually,
we didn't do that.
once, I mean, the first time I did it for the district, I was just, after you start doing it, it's pretty self-explanatory.
Well-
Getting it initially done the first time, I mean,
The big help for us was we contracted with an accounting service to do our payroll and all that stuff. And so they picked that up, and of course they understand all of that better than the rest of us.
Good news. We can quit hopefully sending out nasty letters, I guess. Anything else for Brian on? Sounds like the hospital's working on it, Brian, and Cambridge, so hopefully we'll be done shortly. Okay. You guys got your board full?
Yeah.
All right, anything else on non-compliance districts update? Okay, thanks, Brian.
You bet.
Appreciate you coming in and visiting.
You bet.
If you're ready, we can jump into fairgrounds.
So, last time I was here, we talked about some lights in the alleyways and the indoor. They got that done. Phil with 21 came down and got that done. And like when we came in, we were looking at that, it was gonna be like a $1,700 job just to make things work. Then he put a new bid in for $550 to just literally make it work. But he was able to do it for $250. And I think he's sending you guys a voucher on that, with a deal on that. I asked him if he got it in yet. He hasn't got back to me. But so that was a pretty good deal. We got lights. It's updated now. He's really pushing to update some of the actual light fixtures and stuff. Going to LED light or something. I mean, it'll take a long time to make it pay for itself, but some of those lights are pretty old, pretty dim. But that's just kind of the lay of the land on that one. We are working. Last year, I think it was about this time last year, the fire marshal actually came down and looked at a few things. And since we put those bleachers in the indoor arena, we upped our occupancy where we had to change out the doors, the man doors, the double man doors going out to the bathrooms. And we're looking at options for that. And we were under the impression they probably needed to be fire rated doors. But when I spoke with the fireman a couple weeks ago, with the fire marshal, so they don't have to be fire rated doors, which I'm really happy about that because fire rated doors for that's like $7,000 just for 2 doors. We're looking at some other options, putting things together. It'd be about $1,000, $900 for those 2 doors. Then when we're at it, we're looking maybe doing because there's doors on both long ends of the arena, man doors that I usually forget they're even there because the sliding doors are always open. But in an event where we gotta have those sliding doors shut, that man door would be nice. So that'd be like an $1,800 deal for all 4 doors.
Do they just have to have push bars on them?
No, he didn't say anything about push bars, like the actual bars. He just said his main thing was they gotta swing the way it exit,
Oh,
and that was it. So we're looking at just one of those push plates deals, looking into combinations of how we can make them latch, and what's that kind of not necessarily the cheapest way to do it, but the cost-friendly, functional way to do it. We've got some prices coming up. We don't have anything finalized yet. Still brainstorming on that. We're doing that all in-house with a maintenance guy. He's the one who got those up. Let's see. We got the big doors on the indoor are, I think when I first got on the board 3 years ago, Louis came down and fixed some of them and stuff, and they're starting to get rotted out in other places and stuff. And, doors are a pain, but they work. I'd love to have overhead doors, but those aren't cheap. Maybe somewhere down the line. But that's the update on the doors and the lights. We are brainstorming. So with the event center, it's all complete. The women's restroom looks great. The outdoor, you couldn't tell nothing ever hit it. With that said, we are brainstorming on how to prevent that happening again. Because apparently, it's a habit. So we thought about planters, guardrails, seeing what we can do there to just stop people from running into our building. I think right now we're leaning towards some kind of railroad tie, flower pot, something. We really thought about guardrails, but it's like $800 a hole if you go in and drill through the concrete to have one person come out and do it. He does a good job, but it's $800 a hole, and you put an actual guardrail down, it's a lot of holes. So, looking at other options for that. And then on our budget, for our monies and stuff, we're looking at, in our repairs and maintenance, our repairman has been whittling away on a lot of the stuff that's outdated, broken. Toilets in the event center have been an issue, just not the toilets itself, but the flushers and the mechanisms that make them work. So we've been, like right now, I think we've got one down in the men's, but he's working on those. But like our repairs and maintenance, we're down to 1.36% of our line item budget, which we're gonna move some stuff around on that, just line item in-house. And my understanding, we can do that without having a budget adjustment, right? We can reallocate within the line items just fine, right? That's.
In your budget, your total budget, you could move
This
some.
is one.
Yeah. You haven't been, like Francie called me the other day and she said you guys are high on your wages, so.
Slightly,
That's one you can't touch.
Yeah.
yes. Yeah, and our salaries, we got like 56%. We're, they're half the year, which, summers, our second maintenance guy took off for the winter. He's not here. Did a great service when he was here. We do the small things, so our other maintenance guy kind of focused on the bigger things, and some of those jobs just took 2 people, and it worked well, but yeah, we're at 56% in that. 41,000 left in that budget, which for an office personnel, and in the springtime we'll have 2 maintenance guys around. It'll add up quick, but our main concern right now is the repairs and maintenance, because we're still working on fixing things when it breaks, doing all that. We've been pretty good on being on top of it.
So your some of the big replacement fixtures, I think we could probably help cover on some of that stuff, but like with our buildings and grounds. If you're changing a door out, that's where we could step in and,
Yeah, and that's the, like, the doors, that's why we're really, like, coming to you about the door thing is, and we've talked about the doors before, the indoor, basically, I think the last thing was to get a quote on all the doors, and we're still working on what's gonna work the best, and not just be an outrageous, I mean, yeah, you can get the $7,000 door, throw it in 5 minutes and be done with it. And I'm sure it'll stand for 40 years. I mean, these doors, I remember these doors when I was 6. So they've been there for a while, and they're nothing special. But $7,000 is ridiculous for a door. And so we're looking at other options that'll work. And once we get those, kind of get it down to where this will work, this is going to be a good deal, then we're going to time talking to you guys and see what you want to do about that. But yeah, our repairs and maintenance, we're going to move some money into the repairs.
don't use your salary.
And then, which when we get things kind of realigned in-house, we'll be sitting pretty good until about April. April, we're going to be completely broken utilities. I had my average numbers and stuff. We were averaging a month on another sheet I cannot find, but I mean, we got $9,000 left in utilities to last us till like end of July, June. That's not gonna last. So like in April, we're gonna look into what we actually needed and stuff, and then we see we get a budget adjustment. Then to have something come out of our income to supplement some of that. Because we've been busy, like we've been booked out like crazy. And coming up, booked out all of March and May. April's about half full right now for the event center. We didn't salt the indoor this year like we did last year, which that was about an $800 bill to salt it last year. Salt went up pretty extensively this year. We couldn't find anything for under $1,300 to salt it. So we went with this other additive. It's called Ignite. It's out of Texas. We put it in, and it's keeping the dust down. It's working. It was $780. 2 little pouches like this big. You know, we put it in like 7 tanks of the Kaiser, and it's working good. I think I'm pretty impressed with it. It's supposed to last 3 months, get us through the cold spells and stuff, and we're not supposed to have to water with it. So that saves money on the time, the water, everything like that. It's a good deal. But yeah, come April, we will be broke in utilities. So that's
Mr. Chair, what do you guys draw in approximately for revenue in the course of the year, Billy?
the course of the year.
Yeah, just, I mean,
for-
maybe not specific, but I mean, you're gonna have like, indoor arena rent, the rent of, maybe, grounds, campground, the event center.
So this year, so far, our total income is $21,155.29. Percentage wise, so like stall rental, we're raking in 4,000 to date on that.
Included with that number.
Yeah, this is kind of the breakdown of that big number. Event centers, 6,000, a little over 6,000, 6,200. The indoor arena is $2,200. And like the NIAX machine, the machine that we use to pay for our lights in the indoor, we made $3,000 with that, which has been a very good tool to use.
So Francie called me a couple weeks ago about this kind of deal, and she'd asked about using some of that income you folks have generated. I assume it's going into an account at the bank. And I just told her, I said, you can't really use that right now to amend your current budget. That would probably need to come before the board to decide what to do with those funds, right?
Yeah, because they don't bring it up to us anymore, their revenue.
Yeah, 'cause that would be messing with your.
Yeah,
A yearly
to
budget.
move it into our yearly budget, we have to get a budget adjustment, adjust our budget. That's how I understand it. And I wish Francie was here because she knows these numbers inside and out, and I do not. But my understanding is, like last year, we wrote a check for our income back to you guys. And then, but before that, like this time last year, we reallocated that without a budget adjustment and dipped into it, used it, just to make us functional with utilities and stuff. So, I guess
That was the 25,000 that we then put into the rock wall fund.
Yeah.
So I think
well, I don't think you guys didn't put our income in that.
that was the check that you
The
wrote
amount that
to
you wrote
us.
back to us,
We ended
in
up
that
putting it
account.
back into that rock wall fund.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I thought you guys just cleared out some other.
So I think next time you guys come in, you might wanna, I assume it's going, all that income's in an account over here at the bank. Maybe approach with that, what's there, and then we can figure out what to do to get you guys through the year.
Okay.
And then the board can decide what the remainder of the funds, what needs to happen, and maybe something similar to this last year. I mean, I don't know if it'll go to the rock wall, but if there's something that needs to go to, if you guys have a good reasoning behind it, we can figure something out,
Is
so.
it, and that's when we go in and put in for our budget at the beginning of the year, whatever. Utilities is, when we've had that conversation before, utilities is hard to, the more we get used, the bigger that is. And we've been having a battle with our linen company, Serval, which we've been looking at other venues, options for that, just to cheapen, because they kind of went under a new program. I didn't realize we invented our mop handles, but I guess we do. It's kind of ridiculous. We're going to be changing a few things there, but and that'll cheapen things up, but like just the lights, the usage, and the usage form, we have been utilizing the usage form for entities and nonprofits that are getting utilized, and the schools came up, done a few things, but yeah, the utilities is hard to base for, and like the repairs and maintenance, I mean, it's when me kind of learning on how I go on this, when we get our budget next year, we'll kind of really reanalyze that a little bit better for the repairs and maintenance. Which two of those in the repairs and maintenance, there's two big bills that really stand out. One was service on the skid steer, that when we had the ARPA money last year, we came in, we did it, we fixed it. Well, then something else went with it, and we no longer had the ARPA money, so we came out of repairs and maintenance and got that fixed, and that was $1,000. And then we put in, the junior livestock put the bleachers in the indoor. And this year at fair, the junior livestock got to use them, so it was really fitting because we were inside for the sale. But to put when the fire marshal showed up, he said we had to put a backing on the bleachers, and we knew that going into it. But it was an $1,800 bill to put the backing on the bleachers, so it falls off. So, looks really good, but again, it was an unplanned expense. It was $1,800. So, with those two big bills, we'd be sitting a little bit better in crew maintenance. But yeah, that's kind of a rundown update on what's going on out there.
Anybody there have any relationship with like BN and see if they could get a hold of some of those concrete railroad ties to try to use them potentially for blockades for there at the event center?
I don't think so. We can the concrete.
Those concrete railroad ties, they look real similar to a concrete block that you pull up to at a store.
Okay.
I have a handful of them
They're hauling truckloads of them in, so they just changed
down the
a
road.
bunch of them out at the
And
airport
at the
area.
depot, they're
Yeah.
hauling them in.
Sometimes they'll have a little metal clip on them, but you can zip those off with a cutting disc.
Okay.
I mean, and even if you had to paint the ends of them with a little spray yellow paint or whatever so that they're visible, but might be a cheap fix for that.
Yeah.
Temporary one barricade would be store your blocks for the wall.
Yeah. And like we've been on our last meeting, we talked about that pretty well. Like I think we got some like wooden railroad ties that could be donated to us and make like a flower pot. So we got to anchor them down in the back. That way it wouldn't be a tripping hazard either. That's especially around fair. There's a lot of elderly people that kind of walk in and make those rounds. Trying to eliminate the tripping hazards as much as we can. But also, like if you do the flower pot thing, then we started brainstorming about, we gotta get water to it. Anything you put up there, one's gonna be not great for snow removal, and too bad because we'll be 3-4 feet away from the buildings. That works. Just brainstorming through the whole thing. But I'll bring that to the board.
How wide are those sliding doors on the event or on the arena?
The big ones?
Yeah.
I have no idea. They're
24, maybe bigger.
They're bigger than that. They're probably each one needed to stick its own joint of pipe.
22 foot, probably.
Yeah, it might be. Each door might be 20 foot. Might be. I don't think so.
Is that so they can get in like a disc or something? I mean, how big of a door do you really need there? And I'm wondering this because that door potentially could be framed in some to a smaller overhead door, which
I think
wouldn't be.
You had 20 feet.
Yeah, you're not going to be pulling anything more than 16, I wouldn't think.
Because whatever's that wide, that arena's small enough. You're not operating very well. I think the widest thing we probably pull in there. Chuck doesn't bring the big tractor in there. Would be bleachers, the portable wood bleachers. To bring those in, but then you can also they go both ways. They can go the narrow way too.
People want some crazy stuff, and we always used to dream about it, and now that it's here, people are scared of it. Self-driving cars, electric vehicles. We've been seeing that stuff on TV for how long, hoverboards, and we get upset that we don't have the hoverboards and stuff, but the technology we do have that was in those same shows, we shun it, and we are scared of it, and we don't want to embrace it. And I think every one of us that was sitting around in the 80s and 90s watching those TV shows would be very mad at ourselves as adults now if we weren't taking advantage of all the cool stuff little kids us wanted to play with. So
Yeah,
I
you could say we live in a scary time, but I think we live in an exciting. I cannot believe that in my lifetime this is happening. I mean, it is absolutely crazy. And you're right. I spent years saying, man, I wish I had a personal assistant.
Just someday down the line, I mean, if those could be shrunk down and a smaller overhead door put there, I mean, I'd way rather open an overhead door than a side door any day of the week.
Like, and I mean, these things have worked forever, but like, the problem is like we're working it regularly, so we've got the north door just locked. It's padlocked. It's basically not a door anymore to prevent the wind and the weather to come in from there at the arena. So we're using that south door all the time, and it's one of those things where you go in there, you work it, you come out, you get out, you shovel the dirt back into the arena that you drug out, so the rails, the doors can slide on the rail. If you get to do that twice, then it's a problem. But then that's what everyone, on those, they're rope and stock, all that stuff, and it's kind of a pain. But again, the hesitant on the overhead door, they're a great idea, but shoot, we've been having some issues with our garage door in the event center. I think it's just a simple little fuse thing, but it's been an issue. So we got a call into the garage company, door company, see whenever they're coming this way, to come take a look at it.
Well, when you guys come back, why don't you we need to see probably what's in the account, and then as far as making any adjustment too, and I get it, I mean, I think the board understands you can't know what you're gonna be using for lights or water or stuff like that, and if you guys are busy like that, you're gonna have added expenses, so. And
that's as far as I'm aware, that is the balance in that account is between 155.29. All of our income goes directly into there.
That's a good start to help a part of the problems out there, I guess.
It's there's a lot of our maintenance guys been working at it. Everything's been kept up to snuff, up to par, been looking good. One other thing is the open class building. The ceiling tiles are finished. We did buy another one that repairs and maintenance. We did buy some 1-inch square tubing to build me and him are going to build these portable partition walls. Be like 8 foot by 8 foot deals you can move. But it'll be basically a partition because we use it for storage, but we're trying to utilize, because there's things that go in the event center that really don't need to go in the event center, but they don't belong in the indoor. They don't belong in the sheep barn. Like the open class would be a perfect setting for them.
And you're just small, like making it so you can't see them.
Yeah, making it so where you can still get to the bathrooms and utilize them, but you don't want to see a storage trap in the corner. So we're partitioning that off so you can still utilize that. We did turn the heat off to that building over a year ago. Just been looking at options on, because that'd be a great place for a cat show, or some other shows like that in the summertime. problem is, there's no AC, there's no heat, and it will get hot. Looking at options for that.
Michael, that partition wall that was in the annex, do you have any idea what happened to it?
Not exactly. It might be downstairs. I can look.
You don't mind?
Yeah.
If it worked for you guys, I mean, there's,
Yeah.
yeah, it wasn't cheap. I don't know, remember how long it was, but it covered a fair amount of ground.
Yeah.
And maybe Brandon might even have an idea, he may not, but it might have been removed prior to him. Steve moved, right? Took it. Okay. But he may know where, if it's somewhere stored, he might know.
We've got the metal sitting down.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, we've got the metal, it's got to cut it up and put it together.
Yeah.
But appreciate that. But yeah, I think that's an update on it. However, it's
Just mention his name.
It's in the basement storage room over there.
Is it? Thank. Well, if you want to look at it, it's over there in the basement storage.
okay.
Thank you for coming in.
Yeah, anytime. I'm glad I could make it. I was in the holiday today, but had other plans today too, so it worked out.
Cool.
Thank you guys.
Thanks, Billy.
Take care.
See ya.
Yeah.
Who do I get with to look at that, the wall?
I can run over there with you.
Oh, all right, you don't need to do it now.
Hey, Brandon, are you going to be around us? Okay, all right. Event center release form. Your old business. Here, Trina. I talked to our insurer about this deal out at the event center, and he's of the opinion that we're probably gonna, I do remember talking to you, Michael, it's gonna take, probably cost more to try to get the additional $2,000 out of the extra costs that it costs to get that fixed. It'd take more work that's probably worth it. And our insurer also kind of shared the same sentiment that this is common and he didn't see too much of an issue with proceeding with paying this invoice. It was, I can't remember how much more, what did they?
Like $2,000, I think whatever that contract is like 16 and this bill is 18.
You guys want to see the bill, what it ended up costing, and in the back of my mind, I mean, it also fixed that other issue where the other vehicle had hit the event center, so I think we talked about that at one juncture. It was kind of a two birds with one stone deal. Go
The
ahead.
insurance company didn't want to cough up the other few.
This was their,
Yeah, well, they adjusted that.
Yeah,
no. They didn't.
and I discussed it with, what's his name? Brad, with our insurance, and he said it's pretty common that this kind of a situation, and Nick even called him and tried his best to argue where this is this and this is that, and he said it was like talking to a rock wall.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
was the, I
Do you
know
wanna
that was
see all
the
the
final,
stuff?
and the original was the
You see
16.
Mhm.
Was there,
Thank you.
was there a reasoning behind that? Was like documented betterment percentage on that wall or on that?
The reason whites were a little higher than what they come up with.
Yeah, I guess and I understand on our end of it, we can justify it by knowing that there was damage done to that tin down the wall there a little bit. And it does make sense there, but on the insurance company side, was it documented like a betterment percentage? Or, I guess, what was their reasoning for saying this is what we feel is owed of us, but this is what it cost?
I didn't get that answer. What I got from Nick was his quote, and this isn't verbatim, so I believe it was some of the drywall issues was part of it, and that they didn't see issue that it was going to cost as much to the repair on the inside. I think that was what Nick told me. Yeah,
I had that same conversation with Nick too.
you did.
Yeah, they only allowed like $75 to fix the drywall inside. Well, you can't just do that one little patch. You got to do. It took a lot more. That was one of the big ones. Was what the insurance company allowed to fix the drywall versus what the actual cost to fix it was going to be.
And he called him and tried to fight with him over it, and he said I was talking to a rock wall. So
We could spend $5,000 and try to get $2,000, maybe not even get it. So
yeah.
lesser of two evils we have to deal with.
For building and grounds.
You know,
Was that 2,000 difference?
Well,
18,000.
we're gonna have to pay it, and
Yeah,
then
we'll pay it.
sign this form, and then Progressive will pay
Pay
it.
us back the 16.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
So is it the 1653.79, that's the cost, replacement cost value, but I see they got a $56.76 depreciation. Is that incorporated into that?
Know what the $56 depreciation is, I guess.
Less non-recoverable depreciation.
Oh, where it's 15,997 or
But
whatever.
actually, that depreciation came into our favor. No, it's the other way around.
I have no idea what the depreciation is. Non-renewable depreciation.
Non-recoverable.
Non-recoverable.
Without depreciation.
Don't pay whites directly and they'll pay. You need the
I
difference.
need the difference.
15,997.03. 0.03.
Is there a deductible as well?
That's on the.
That's on them, not us. But I don't think so. Cause
That's on who's driving the vehicle.
You ever heard of non-recoverable depreciation, Michael? Do you know what that might be?
But they still aren't going to pay the 1653, right?
No, 15,997.03. It's $56 roughly less than
Well, the release has the 1653 though.
it does.
Yeah.
That's what, I'm waiting to see what Michael says, cause if we sign the release, it's 16 something, not
Yeah.
15,997.
The release has the 1653.79.
give that to Michael, see what he.
Yeah.
So with that releasing 16,000, just rely on that.
Do you have the release, Garrett, by chance? Michael's got it.
I sent it back that way somewhere.
What?
You have it.
What's the release say on?
16,000.
53.79.
It's 28, 29, and 71 is the difference. Yes, sir.
And I realize that in mind, the damage to that tin that was prior to that we did get fixed with this repair. And it does look amazing. A couple weeks ago I saw it. I'm looking at it pretty hard as a painter, and I can't tell the difference colors wise where they did that whole section up to the entrance door.
Good.
And even the style of the tin, you know, each different companies of tin have different styles, but the style of the tin looks spot on. So the repair itself was very good, and I understand that to get that other portion fixed, just to fix this little spot for $1,800 probably isn't going to happen and look good.
Yeah.
So, but ultimately it's to the advantage. We can look at it as an advantage to us because we got that fixed too, but they're looking at a dollar advantage through the insurance company with us agreeing to the lesser amount.
Yes, thank you.
Back down.
So the numbers are different.
No, it's the 291. But you need more.
Yeah. So, moving forward, I guess, if we want to accept it and fill out the fixed property damage release, we'd have to do two motions. One would be paying Howard White Construction the difference, which is $2,829.71. And then the insurance company progressively pays the remainder to Howard White for the fix. And then also motion to, I guess it's my signature on the fixed property damage release. If we're copacetic with swallowing $2,800.
Which one do we have to do first?
It's probably
It doesn't matter. I'll make a motion to pay the invoice to Howard White Construction in the amount of $18,883.50.
It's the 2,800. It's on the yellow slip there.
On the back. Oh, it's on the back. Sorry. Okay. $2,829.71. Excuse me.
Second.
Motion properly seconded to pay Howard White Construction $2,829.71 out of buildings and grounds for the remainder of the construction costs. Any discussion? Yes, sir.
I'd like the records to reflect that is the difference between what the insurance was allowing versus the actual cost. That way somebody goes through there, back to the records, look at
I'm okay
that,
with that.
they'll explain it good to them.
Good with the second? Garrett?
I am.
Okay. All those in favor of the motion on the table, please say aye.
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 Opposed?
And this amount we decided is right.
That's
The
what we're going with,
16,000.
yeah.
Okay. So I'll make a motion to approve the fixed property damage release, claim number 25-535-461-215, in the amount of $16,053.79.
Second.
Have a motion properly seconded to the chairman's signature on the property damage release form number 25-535-461215 in the amount of $16,053.79. Discussion on this form, yes, Mr. Chair.
This, I seconded that against my better judgment with the assumption that pursuing the difference is probably going to cost us more than what the difference is.
That was a conversation that I had as well, that would probably be the case. To have man hours associated with percentage. Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion on the floor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. All right. Jimmy's had some, move on to Kenwood Drive. Jimmy's not gonna be here today, he's had some family stuff come up. He relayed to me that there's some issues with, private property. What's the word I'm looking for? Sorry? Yes, we have some private property easement issues on Kenwood Drive, and that he's also learned that the writ process will not work. You cannot use the writ process to try to gather easements on stuff like on county roads. Did you have anything to add to this, Michael? I know you guys have been having conversations.
We've been beating our head against the wall for a few months on this. And what we concluded is we probably just have to go through the process on the Title 24, the advertisement, establish a county road. You assume the way it's been, when you assume the way it's been operating forever, how long, there wouldn't be any problem, but you still have to go through the process and do a resolution, publish in the paper, put the description, have a hearing, go through all the process. We did consider getting all the property owners' consent, but that would be very difficult. So that was our best conclusion.
Yeah, in visiting with Jimmy on it too, that you go through that process. We went kind of through it years ago with that Barton Road, the establishment of a county road, and Jimmy and I were talking about it, that you could have somebody that absolutely finally says no on that county road, and I guess at that juncture you say, well, congratulations, you now have a private drive all the way up that road, and which may get some neighbors to help try to persuade the individual in that event, but I don't know, it sounded to me that one person absolutely denying can pretty well stop the process, or is that incorrect?
I don't know.
Or you stop it there. property, if the problem is there, then I don't know how that works, but I mean, if it's in the better good of everybody on the road,
And what's more for damages and, I don't know if one. I mean, it would be a problem if somebody objected, but you have to take that up at the hearing and have it deal with it.
okay.
I think it's more, I'll look at this a little more, but I think it's more about damages that they think they can have.
A question for Michael on the process that you mentioned for Kenwood Drive. Would that be specific only to Kenwood Drive, or is that Fairgrounds Road, Painted Hills, Kenwood Drive? What would that definition be?
Now, I wish Jim was here because he's very knowledgeable on this stuff. I understood it as the whole Fairgrounds, Painted Hills, and Kenwood.
That was my, yeah. And this is on a lot of roads in the county, this is probably gonna start coming up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On that, could all, whatever roads are affiliated, would that be a single process, or does it have to be individual processes for each defined road?
I think that can be one process on this because we looked at, there's some resolution. It was like one road and then they just changed like the name of certain sections, but it wasn't actually 3 different roads, right? Does that make sense? Am I understanding that right?
No, it is 3 separate roads, 3 separate road names, 3 different numbers.
Originally, it was all one, it was all originally all 3.
I'm not sure, but because it was named different and people had addresses associated with all 3, when we did that with the 911 system, they went ahead and named each section, gave it 3 different road numbers for the E911 system, so
Okay.
those people did not have to change their address.
I misunderstood that. I thought they just designated certain portions.
With that being the case on the definition of those, I'm anticipating this process times 3 possibly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Could you loop 3 of them into the same public hearing, or would that be?
I don't think there would be a problem with that.
Well, with public hearing, you just, have one public hearing, you have 3 sections to it.
Yeah.
Or just would do one public hearing one after another.
Yeah.
So we're facing that in the future, I think. I believe Kara discovered online that we do have all the state police, or that state ground up there, we have the easements for it. So I think coming down the road here, we need to start probably pursuing going that route. And I can't remember how that started. Was it, do we, I mean, because it's not being done by a petition, does the board, do you know how the board proceeds with that?
Okay. If I remember right, you guys, you guys can move by resolution to move forward to initiate the process.
Okay.
So maybe we can get some paperwork ready by 3rd for your consideration. I'm sure there's an example out there for Weston County that's been done at some point.
Okay. Thanks, Mike. Anything else on Kenwood Drive from anybody or for anybody? Okay. All right, new business, we have none. Public comment. Is there any public comments? Good morning, yeah.
Well, that's one, since we're heading into next legislative session, I just want to encourage everybody to pay attention and keep aware, take off the kid gloves. There's an active effort to erase local decision making of local boards, of community members like yourselves. Our school boards, our special districts, our city councils. It seems like being an active effort on the part of the legislature, the majority, to erase that local decision making and consolidate it with politicians in Cheyenne who think they know our communities and our counties better than we do. So I just want to encourage everybody to keep your thumb on it. Been kind of disheartening to see the kind of the language coming out of Cheyenne. But,
Is it more around the schools, Nick, or is it just pretty, it's everything? Huh?
it's local decision making, period.
Interesting. Oh, good to know.
So just keep your eye on it. Testify if you can.
For your legislators. Thanks, Nick. Anything else? All right. We'll move into, motion to, commissioner comments, sorry. Ms. Huber, do you have anything for today?
No, not today.
Mr. Gordon?
This will be a big piggyback on what Nick said. I know there was some proposed legislation out there to strip the business council, Wyoming Business Council, of all of its funds, just enough basically to close the doors this time around. So, and that was any growth, any business growth and everything, that was majorly affect a lot of it. So I just pay attention to what the legislators doing, and like I said, Nick said, pull off the gloves, don't fight fair no more, because they're not. And appropriations committee, anybody hear about that fiasco? Now supposedly there was some scripts of who's going to bring up motions and how we're going to vote on it before it was handed out. Ogden jumped on it, and Bear called Ogden a doofus because of it. And then Bear was complaining that it's like, well, he can't make motions because he's the chairman of that board. It's like, well, if you're the chairman, if you want to have control of the board by being chair, don't bitch about not being able to make motions. So it's going to get ugly. I think it's going to get real ugly this time around on all ends of it. So just pay attention. That's all I got.
That's good. I don't have anything for today. Alrighty, we're gonna bump into an executive session here once we get a motion made for potential litigation. Anybody care to make that motion?
Mr. Chair, I move we go into executive session 16-4-405 AIII, potential litigation.
Second.
We have a motion properly seconded to go into executive session 16-4-405 AIII, potential litigation. Can we start at 11:25 if that's okay with everybody? We didn't realize we were supposed to go sure. Okay, all right. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?